Get on your knees and clean it up. Now." Victoria Ashford threw her champagne glass at Marcus Chen's feet. The crystal shattered across the marble floor, splashing his worn work boots. "I said now." 3 hours later, this same woman would be screaming his name, begging God to save the janitor she'd just humiliated. Her hands would be covered in his blood. Her $50,000 dress would be ruined not by champagne, but by the bullet wound in his chest. The bullet he took for her daughter. But right now, Marcus Chen did what she demanded. He got on his knees. He cleaned up her mess. And he said nothing. Because heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms. Sometimes they stay invisible until the moment the world needs them to be seen. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. I said clean it. What are you, deaf? Marcus pulled a rag from his belt and began picking up the glass shards. His hands were steady. His face revealed nothing. Victoria turned to her assistant. "Jennifer, make sure this man is gone before the gala starts. I don't want to see his face again tonight." "Ms. Ashford, he's the only maintenance worker on shift." "Then find another one. I don't care if you have to drag someone off the street." Victoria's heels clicked against the floor as she walked away. "And get me another drink, something that won't be ruined by incompetent staff." Marcus kept cleaning. A piece of glass sliced his palm. He didn't flinch. "I'm so sorry," Jennifer whispered, crouching beside him. "She's under pressure with the event. Here." She held out a $100 bill. Marcus looked at the money, then at her face. "Keep it. Please. It's the least." "I said keep it." He stood, dropped the bloody glass shards into his bucket, and walked toward the service corridor. Behind him he heard Jennifer's voice, soft with shame. "What's your name, for the incident report?" He didn't turn around. "Marcus Chen." "I really am sorry, Mr. Chen." "Don't be. I've had worse." The storage closet smelled like bleach and broken dreams. Marcus leaned against the wall, wrapped his bleeding hand with a strip of cloth, and pulled out his phone. 3 missed calls from Sophie. His heart seized. He hit redial immediately. "Daddy." "Sophie, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I had a nightmare." Her voice was small, trembling. "You were hurt. There was blood everywhere. I couldn't wake up." Marcus closed his eyes. "It was just a dream, baby girl. I'm fine." "It felt real, Daddy. Really real." "I know. But I'm okay. See, I'm talking to you right now." "When are you coming home?" "Breakfast. Remember pancakes with the smiley faces." "You promise?" The word hit him like a punch to the gut. He'd made promises before. To Elena. To Sophie. Most of them he'd broken. "I promise." "Daddy." "Yeah, baby girl. Don't be a hero tonight. Okay. Just come home." Marcus laughed, but it caught in his throat. "I'm just a janitor, Sophie. Heroes wear capes. I wear a uniform that smells like toilet cleaner. You're a hero to me. I love you, baby girl. I love you more. Be safe. Always." He hung up and stared at the screen. Sophie's face smiled back at him. Her 8th birthday. Elena still alive. Their apartment still feeling like home instead of a tomb. The door banged open. "Chen, where the hell have you been?" Derek. His supervisor filled the doorway like an angry bull. "Taking a personal call. My daughter." "I don't give a damn about your daughter. The East Wing bathrooms need checking. The Ashford woman is raising hell about everything tonight. Move your ass." Marcus pocketed his phone. "Yes, sir." "And stay invisible. These rich people don't want to see the help wandering around." "Understood." Derek blocked his path. "You know what your problem is, Chen. You think you're better than this job. I see it in your eyes. That quiet superiority." "I don't think anything, sir. I just work." "Bullshit. I read your file. Army right. Thought you'd come back a hero. Get a parade corner office." Derek laughed. "Welcome to reality. You're nothing here, just another guy with a mop. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life gets." Marcus looked at him for a long moment. "Are we done?" "Get to work." Marcus walked past him, his shoulder brushing Derek's on the way out. Not hard enough to be aggressive, just hard enough to say, "I'm still here. I still exist." But the East Wing bathrooms were spotless. Marcus checked them anyway, wiped counters that didn't need wiping, refilled soap dispensers that were already full, went through the motions because that's what invisible people did. His phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. "Mrs. Patterson fell asleep. She snores like a bear." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Go to sleep, troublemaker." "Can't." Still scared from the dream. "What happened in the dream?" "You were running toward something scary, and then there was a loud bang, and you fell down, and there was so much blood, Daddy, so much." Marcus stared at the message. Sophie had always been sensitive. Elena used to call it her gift, the way she could feel things before they happened, sense moods before they were expressed. "It was just a dream, baby girl. Nothing scary is going to happen tonight. I'm cleaning toilets. The most dangerous thing here is the buffet shrimp. Promise." That word again. Promise. "Now sleep. I'll be home before you know it." "Okay. Love you, Daddy." "Love you more." He pocketed the phone and caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Gray at the temples, lines around the eyes, the face of a man who'd seen too much and felt too little for too long. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen. Bronze Star with Valor. 2 Purple Hearts. 12 years in Special Forces. 3 combat deployments. 17 confirmed extractions of high-value personnel from hostile territories. Now he cleaned toilets for $11 an hour. The universe had a sick sense of humor. "Daddy, tell me about the brave night." Elena's voice echoed from memory. She was sitting on Sophie's bed, their daughter curled against her, both of them looking at Marcus with identical expressions of love. The brave night again. It's her favorite. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, taking Sophie's small hand in his. Once upon a time, there was a knight who did all his good deeds in secret. He never wanted recognition, never wanted praise. He just wanted to keep people safe. "Why didn't he want anyone to know?" Sophie asked. "Because real heroes don't need applause, baby girl. They do the right thing because it's right. Not because someone's watching." "Are you a brave knight, Daddy?" Marcus looked at Elena. She was smiling, tears in her eyes. "Your daddy is the bravest knight I know," Elena said. "Even when no one says thank you. Even when the world forgets he exists. Will you always protect us, Daddy?" "Always, baby girl. Always." The memory faded as the ballroom doors opened. Guests poured in like a river of silk and diamonds. Marcus positioned himself near the service entrance, invisible as instructed, watching the parade of wealth he would never be part of. A man in a 3-piece suit bumped into him without acknowledgement. A woman stepped on his foot and kept walking mid-conversation about her vacation home in Aspen. A waiter nearly knocked his bucket over, then glared at him like it was his fault. Invisible. That's what he was. That's what they needed him to be. Then Victoria Ashford took the stage. "Thank you all for being here tonight." She said, her voice warm and gracious, the same voice that had told him to get on his knees 3 hours ago. "Your generosity will transform the lives of thousands of underprivileged children." Marcus watched her perform, watched the crowd applaud, watched them write checks for amounts that would have solved every problem he'd ever had. $50,000 for a single dinner. His annual salary wouldn't cover the wine. "I want to introduce you to my inspiration," Victoria continued. "My daughter Emma." A small girl walked onto the stage. Blue dress, dark curls, hands trembling at her sides. Marcus's chest tightened. She looked like Sophie. The same age. The same vulnerability. The same desperate need for protection in a world too big and too cruel. Emma leaned toward the microphone. My mommy says every kid should have a chance to learn, because everyone's brain is special. Marcus saw the gun. Third row, left side. The man in glasses had been fidgeting all night. Now his hand emerged from his jacket holding death. Time compressed. Marcus's body moved before his mind could catch up. 15 years of training taking over. Muscle memory, overriding conscious thought. Gun! His voice shattered the room. The champagne and laughter atmosphere exploded into chaos. The gunman's weapon rose toward the stage. Toward Emma. Toward a child who reminded him of Sophie. Marcus sprinted. 30 feet. 20. 10. He hit the shooter like a missile, knocking the gun upward as it fired. The shot went wild, punching into the ceiling. But Marcus had already seen the second threat. The first gunman's eyes had flickered right before impact. A signal. A partner. Second shooter. Third row right. Weapon rising. Professional stance. Aimed at the stage. At Emma. Marcus made a choice. He left the first gunman for security and launched himself toward the stage. His boots pounded the floor. His lungs burned. His mind calculated trajectories and distances with cold precision. He wasn't going to reach her in time. So he became the target instead. Down. Victoria grabbed Emma, pulling her behind the podium. But the podium was nothing. Wood and plastic. The bullet would punch through like paper. Marcus threw himself onto the stage, his body blocking Emma's completely. The gun fired. Impact. High left chest, below the collarbone. The force spun him, stole his breath, replaced everything with fire. But Emma was behind him, safe, alive. He crashed into the podium, absorbing the collision with his wounded body, keeping himself between the child and the shooter. His knees buckled, his vision darkened. But he could feel her. Small, trembling, breathing. You're safe now, he whispered. Blood filled his mouth. You're safe. He collapsed. Victoria Ashford was screaming. Help him, somebody, help him! She was on her knees beside the man she'd humiliated, the janitor, the help, the invisible nobody she'd told to learn his place. His blood soaked through her $50,000 gown. Don't die, she begged. Please don't die. Oh God, what did I do? What did I... His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow. His face was peaceful, like he'd finally found something worth dying for. Security swarmed the stage. Paramedics rushed forward. Someone was screaming for a doctor. But Victoria couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but press her hands against his chest and watch her sins pour out between her fingers. What's his name? A paramedic demanded. Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. She didn't know. She'd never bothered to learn. Marcus Chen, Jennifer said from somewhere behind her. His name is Marcus Chen. The paramedic cut open his uniform. Beneath the blood-soaked fabric, something metallic caught the light. A dog tag. The paramedic read it aloud, his voice changing. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. He looked up at his partner. This guy's Special Forces. Victoria's world tilted. The janitor. The man she'd thrown champagne at. The man she'd made kneel on the floor like a dog. He was a war hero. And he'd just taken a bullet for her daughter. Across the city, Sophie Chen woke up screaming, Daddy! The nightmare was back. But this time she couldn't shake it. Couldn't convince herself it wasn't real. She grabbed her phone. Opened the news app. Breaking shooting at Ashford Gala. Multiple casualties. Her hands trembled as she scrolled, looking for her father, praying she wouldn't find him. Then she saw the video. A man in a janitor's uniform, running toward danger. throwing himself in front of a gun, falling to the stage as blood spread across his chest. "Daddy!" Sophie screamed until her throat tore. Mrs. Patterson came running, but Sophie was already at the door, already grabbing her jacket, already clutching the emergency money from the kitchen jar. "Sophie, where are you going? What's wrong?" "Daddy's hurt. I have to go." "Sophie, wait." But Sophie was gone, running into the night. 9 years old and alone, racing toward the hospital where her mother had died 3 years ago. Toward her father, toward the truth that some promises couldn't be kept. No matter how much you loved someone, no matter how hard you tried. In the ambulance, Chen's heart stopped. The paramedic grabbed the defibrillator. "Charging! Clear!" The shock jolted through him. Nothing. Again, "Clear!" Another shock. His heart stuttered, then caught, then beat. Weak, thready, but alive. "We got him back," the paramedic said. "But he's critical. Call ahead. Tell them we need a surgical team ready." Marcus's eyes flickered open for just a moment. "My daughter," he whispered. "Tell my daughter." "Sir, you need to stay still. Tell her I'm sorry." Tears leaked from the corners of his eyes. "I promised pancakes. I promised I'd come home." "You're going to be fine, sir. Just hold on." But Marcus was already fading again, slipping into the darkness that felt so much like Elena's arms. "I'm sorry, baby girl. I tried. I really tried." The ambulance screamed through the night, carrying a hero nobody had known existed. And somewhere behind it, a 9-year-old girl ran through empty streets, chasing the father she couldn't afford to lose. Sophie's lungs burned. Her legs screamed for her to stop. Her sneakers pounded the pavement, each step a prayer, each breath a bargain with God. "Please let him be alive. Please. I'll do anything. I'll be good forever. I'll never complain about homework again. Just let my daddy be alive." The hospital loomed ahead. SF General, the same building where her mother had taken her last breath 3 years ago. Sophie had sworn she'd never come back here. Had nightmares about the smell, the lights, the sound of machines keeping people alive who were already gone. Now, she was running toward it like her life depended on it. Because it did. She burst through the emergency room doors, gasping wild-eyed, her pajamas still visible under her hastily grabbed jacket. "My daddy!" she screamed. "Where's my daddy?" The waiting room was chaos. People everywhere, some crying, some bleeding, some just staring at nothing. A nurse looked up from the intake desk. "Honey, slow down. What's your name?" "Sophie Chen. My daddy is Marcus Chen. He got shot. I saw it on the news. Where is he?" The nurse's expression changed. Recognition, pity, the look adults gave you when they knew something terrible and didn't want to say it. "Sweetheart, how did you get here? Where's your mother?" "I don't have a mother. She's dead. It's just me and Daddy. Please, please tell me where he is." "Honey, you need to sit down. Let me call someone." "I don't want to sit down." Sophie slammed her small fists on the counter. "I want my daddy. Tell me where he is." "He's in surgery." Another voice, calm, professional. A doctor in blue scrubs approached her face, lined with exhaustion. "I'm Dr. Martinez. I operated on your father." Sophie's heart stopped. "Is he dead?" "No. He's alive. But he's very sick, sweetheart. The bullet did a lot of damage." "Can I see him?" "Not yet. He's in recovery. We need to make sure he's stable first." Sophie felt her legs give out. She would have hit the floor if Dr. Martinez hadn't caught her. "Easy. Easy. I've got you." The doctor guided her to a chair. "When did you eat last?" "I don't remember." "When did you sleep?" "I can't sleep. Not until I see him." Dr. Martinez crouched down to Sophie's level. "Your father is a fighter. You know that, right? He was in the Army, Special Forces. He doesn't talk about it, but I know. Then you know he's survived worse than this. He's going to fight to come back to you. He promised me pancakes. Sophie's voice cracked. He promised he'd be home for breakfast. Dr. Martinez's eyes glistened. Then he'll keep that promise. Men like your father don't break promises to their little girls. My mom made promises too. Sophie looked up, her eyes ancient with grief no child should carry. She promised she'd beat the cancer. She promised she'd see me grow up. She promised she'd always be there. Sophie, promises don't mean anything. People say them to make you feel better. Then they die anyway. Dr. Martinez had no answer for that. How do you argue with a 9-year-old who's already learned the cruelest truth about life? Can I wait here? Sophie asked. Until he wakes up? Of course, but I need to call someone. You can't be here alone. There's no one to call. It's just us. It's always been just us. Dr. Martinez pulled out her phone. There must be someone. A neighbor, a family friend. Mrs. Patterson. She babysits sometimes, but she's old and she falls asleep a lot. Anyone else? Sophie shook her head. Dr. Martinez made a decision. Hospital protocol could go to hell. She wasn't leaving this child alone. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you some food from the cafeteria. Then I'm going to check on your father. And when he's stable enough, I'm going to take you to see him. Deal. Sophie looked at her with desperate hope. You promise? Dr. Martinez hesitated. After what Sophie had said about promises, the word felt dangerous. I promise. Sophie nodded slowly. Okay, I'll wait. She curled up in the chair, making herself small arms wrapped around her backpack like a shield. Dr. Martinez watched her for a moment. This brave, broken child who had crossed the city alone in the middle of the night to find her father. Then she walked away to check on Marcus Chen, praying she wouldn't have to break her promise. The waiting room clock read 3:47 a.m. Sophie hadn't moved from her chair. Her eyes were fixed on the doors that led to the surgical wing, willing them to open, willing someone to come tell her that her daddy was okay. The food Dr. Martinez had brought sat untouched beside her. A sandwich, some juice, a cookie that was probably supposed to make her feel better. She couldn't eat. Every time she tried, her throat closed up. Around her, the emergency room had calmed slightly. The chaos of the earlier hours had settled into the grim routine of a hospital at night. People came and went. Some left crying. Some left relieved. Sophie tried not to think about which category she would fall into. Excuse me. Sophie looked up. A woman stood before her. Dark hair, expensive clothes, face streaked with makeup and tears. Sophie recognized her immediately. The woman from the video. The one who had been on stage when Daddy got shot. The one whose daughter he had saved. You're Sophie, aren't you? Victoria Ashford's voice was hoarse-broken. Marcus Chen's daughter. Sophie didn't answer. She just stared. I'm Victoria, Victoria Ashford. Your father, he saved my daughter tonight. He saved Emma. Still nothing. Victoria knelt down, bringing herself to Sophie's level. Up close, she looked destroyed. Her silver gown was stained with blood. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. I need to tell you something, Victoria said. Something I'm not proud of. Sophie waited. Before the shooting, I was terrible to your father. I said horrible things. I made him get on his knees and clean up a mess I created. I told him he was invisible. I told him to learn his place. Sophie's jaw tightened. And then 3 hours later, that same man threw himself in front of a bullet for my daughter. Victoria's voice broke. He didn't hesitate. Didn't think about what I'd done to him. He just saw a child in danger and he acted. That's who my daddy is, Sophie said quietly. I know that now. And I'm so sorry, Sophie. I'm so sorry for how I treated him. I'm sorry I didn't see him. I'm sorry I made him feel like he was nothing when he's everything. Sophie looked at this woman, this billionaire CEO who had humiliated her father, and felt something she didn't expect. Not anger, not hatred, just exhaustion. Are you here to make yourself feel better? Sophie asked. Because saying sorry to me doesn't fix anything. My daddy is in there fighting for his life. Sorry doesn't change that. Victoria flinched like she'd been slapped. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm not here to make myself feel better. I'm here because I owe your father a debt I can never repay. And I'm here because I was told you were alone and no child should be alone at a time like this. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're 9 years old and your father is in surgery, and you took a bus across the city by yourself in the middle of the night. That's not fine. That's incredibly brave, but it's not fine. Sophie's defenses cracked just a little. I had to come. I had to be here when he wakes up, so he knows I didn't leave him alone. Like your mother, Sophie's head snapped up. What do you know about my mother? I read your father's file. After the shooting, I needed to understand who he was, this man I'd dismissed as nothing. Victoria sat down in the chair beside Sophie. I know she died 3 years ago. Cancer. I know your father left the military to take care of you. I know he's been working himself to death trying to keep a roof over your head. He never complains. I'm sure he doesn't. He makes pancakes every Saturday, the kind with chocolate chips that make smiley faces. He reads to me every night even when he's exhausted. He helps me with homework even though he doesn't understand the new math they teach now. Sophie's voice wavered. He's the best daddy in the whole world, and you made him feel like he was nothing. Victoria absorbed the blow. She deserved it. You're right. I did. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. You can't make up for it. You can just do better. Victoria stared at this child, this 9-year-old, who spoke with the wisdom of someone who had already learned that life wasn't fair, that people weren't always good, that sometimes the heroes got hurt and the villains walked away. You're remarkable, Victoria said. You know that. I'm not remarkable. I'm just my daddy's daughter. That's exactly what makes you remarkable. The doors to the surgical wing opened. Both of them turned. Dr. Martinez walked toward them, her face impossible to read. Sophie was on her feet before she realized she'd moved. Is he okay? Can I see him? Dr. Martinez looked at Victoria, then at Sophie. He's out of surgery. He's stable for now. For now. Victoria stepped forward. What does that mean? It means the next 24 hours are critical. The bullet did significant damage. We repaired what we could, but there were complications. His heart stopped twice during surgery. Sophie made a sound like a wounded animal. But he's a fighter. Dr. Martinez continued quickly. His vitals are improving. His body is responding well to treatment. If anyone can pull through this, it's your father. Can I see him? Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Martinez hesitated. Hospital rules said no. A child in the ICU at 4 in the morning against every protocol. But some things were more important than protocol. Come with me. She led Sophie through the doors, down corridors that smelled like antiseptic and fear, past rooms where other families kept their own vigils. Victoria followed without asking permission. Dr. Martinez didn't stop her. The ICU was quiet except for the beeping of machines. Monitors tracking heartbeats, measuring oxygen levels, counting breaths. The sounds of life reduced to numbers on a screen. Marcus Chen lay in the second bed. Tubes and wires connected him to equipment Sophie didn't understand. His face was pale, almost gray, but his chest rose and fell with each breath. He was alive. Sophie approached slowly, as if moving too fast might break the spell, might somehow undo the miracle of his survival. Daddy? No response. His eyes stayed closed. He's heavily sedated, Dr. Martinez explained. His body needs rest to heal. Sophie climbed into the chair beside his bed. Her small hand found his wrapping around his fingers like she'd done 1,000 times before. Hi, Daddy. It's me. I'm here now. You're not alone. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. I know you're tired. I know you need to sleep, but I need you to keep fighting, okay? I need you to come back to me. Sophie's tears fell onto their joined hands. "You promised me pancakes. You promised you'd come home. I know you tried, Daddy. I know you did what you had to do. That girl was in danger and you saved her. That's who you are. That's what brave knights do." She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his hand. "But I need you to save yourself now. I need you to fight your way back. Because I can't do this alone, Daddy. I already lost Mommy. I can't lose you too." Victoria stood in the doorway, watching this child pour her heart out to her unconscious father. The billionaire CEO who had thought she understood suffering, who had thought she knew what sacrifice looked like. She had known nothing. This was suffering. This was sacrifice. This was love, in its purest, most devastating form. "Mrs. Ashford," Dr. Martinez's voice was low. "We should give them privacy." "No." Victoria's voice was firm. "I'm not leaving her alone. I did enough damage tonight. The least I can do is stay." She moved into the room, taking a seat in the corner, far enough to give Sophie space, close enough to be present. Sophie didn't acknowledge her. Her entire world had narrowed to the man in the bed, the rise and fall of his chest, the steady beep of his heart monitor. "Tell me about the brave knight, Daddy," she whispered. "The one who did good deeds in secret. The one who never wanted anyone to know. The one who just wanted to keep people safe." She paused as if waiting for him to pick up the story like he always did. "You're that knight, Daddy. You've always been that knight. Mommy knew it. I know it. And now the whole world knows it too." The clock on the wall ticked forward. 4:15 a.m. 4:30. 4:45. Sophie never let go of her father's hand. Victoria watched the sunrise through the window, her designer gown stiff with dried blood, her empire waiting for her somewhere outside these walls, and none of it mattering. Not one single bit of it mattering compared to what was happening in this room. A father fighting to live, a daughter refusing to let him go, and a woman who was finally beginning to understand what she'd almost destroyed. At 6:47 a.m., Marcus Chen opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was light. Harsh, fluorescent, hospital light. The second thing he felt was pain. Deep, grinding. The kind that lived in your bones and reminded you that being alive came with a cost. The third thing he registered was a small hand wrapped around his. "Sophie." His voice was barely a croak, but it might as well have been a symphony. Sophie's head jerked up from where she'd been resting against the bed. Her eyes were red, swollen, exhausted. But when she saw him looking at her, her face transformed. "Daddy!" She threw herself at him, then stopped herself just in time, remembering his injuries. Instead, she pressed her face against his shoulder and sobbed. "You're awake. You're awake. You're awake." "Hey, baby girl." Marcus's good hand came up to stroke her hair. "I'm here. I'm right here." "You almost died. They said your heart stopped. Twice." "Takes more than a bullet to get rid of me. Remember?" "That's not funny." But she was laughing through her tears. "You said heroes don't wear capes. You lied. You're a hero, Daddy. Everyone's saying so." "I'm not a hero. I just did what anyone would do." "That's not true. Everyone else ran away. You ran toward the danger. You saved that little girl." Marcus's eyes drifted past Sophie's shoulder to the woman standing in the corner of the room. Victoria Ashford, still in her blood-stained gown, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Ms. Ashford." Victoria stepped forward, her face a mask of guilt and gratitude. "Mr. Chen, I don't know what to say. Thank you seems so inadequate." "Is your daughter okay, Emma?" Victoria's composure cracked. "You're lying in a hospital bed with a bullet wound in your chest, and your first question is whether my daughter is okay." She was scared. I could feel her shaking. "Is she all right?" "She's fine. She's home with her nanny. She keeps asking about you. She calls you the brave man." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good, that's good. Mr. Chen." "Marcus, my name is Marcus." "Marcus." Victoria took another step closer. "I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. For how I treated you earlier tonight, for what I said, for making you feel like you were nothing." "You don't need to apologize." "Yes, I do. What I did was inexcusable. And then despite all of it, you saved my daughter. You put yourself between her and a bullet. I can never repay that." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. This woman who had humiliated him, who had made him kneel on the floor like a servant, who had called him invisible. "I didn't save Emma because of you," he said quietly. "I saved her because she's a child, because no child deserves to die, because I looked at her and I saw my Sophie, and I couldn't let that happen. I know. If it had been anyone else on that stage, I would have done the same thing. I know that too. That's what makes it even more remarkable." Sophie tugged at her father's hand. "Daddy, you need to rest. The doctor said, 'In a minute, baby girl.'" Marcus kept his eyes on Victoria. "I heard what you told Sophie, about doing better." Victoria flushed. "You were awake. In and out, I heard most of it." "I meant every word." "Then prove it. Not to me, to everyone else who's invisible, everyone else who's struggling, everyone else who gets treated like they're nothing because they don't have money or power." "I will. I promise." "Don't promise me. I don't need your promises. Show me. Show everyone." Victoria nodded slowly. "I will. I'll start with you. I want to cover all your medical expenses. Everything. And when you're recovered, I want to offer you a position at my company. Head of security. 6 figures. Full benefits." Marcus laughed, then winced as pain shot through his chest. "You're offering me a job. From a hospital bed. I'm offering you a chance. A real chance. For you and for Sophie. I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's recognition. You're a decorated war hero working as a janitor. That's not right. That's a failure of everyone who should have helped you when you came home from service. I don't want to be someone's guilt project." "That's not what this is." Victoria's voice hardened. "You're not a project. You're exactly the kind of person I need. Someone with integrity. Someone who does the right thing even when it costs them everything. Someone who sees through the bullshit and the money and the status to what actually matters." Sophie looked between her father and the billionaire, confused by the tension. "Daddy, what's happening?" Marcus sighed. "Nothing, baby girl. Ms. Ashford is just being generous." "Too generous." "Maybe. I don't know yet. Mommy used to say that when someone offers you help, you should take it. That being proud doesn't keep food on the table." Marcus closed his eyes. Elena's words coming from Sophie's mouth. His wife still guiding them even from beyond the grave. "Your mother was very smart." "I know. That's where I get it from." Victoria almost smiled. Almost. "I don't need an answer right now," she said. "Take time to recover. Think about it. But the offer stands, for as long as you need." "Why are you really doing this?" The question hung in the air. Victoria could have given a political answer, could have talked about debt and gratitude and making amends. Instead, she told the truth. "Because I looked at you tonight and saw everything I'm supposed to stand against. You had nothing. No power, no status, no voice. And I treated you like garbage because of it. Then you turned around and gave everything to save my daughter." She paused, gathering herself. "I've built a billion-dollar empire. I've been on magazine covers and given speeches and won awards. And tonight, I learned that none of it means anything. That the only thing that matters is the kind of person you are when everything falls apart. And you, Marcus Chen, you're the kind of person I want to be." The room fell silent, except for the steady beep of the heart monitor. Marcus looked at his daughter. Sophie looked back at him with wide, hopeful eyes. Can we trust her, Daddy? Marcus considered the question. Could they trust this woman who had humiliated him, who had made him feel worthless, who was now offering them a lifeline? I don't know, baby girl, but maybe we can give her a chance to prove it. Sophie turned to Victoria. If you hurt my daddy again, I'll never forgive you. Ever. Do you understand? Victoria met the child's fierce gaze. I understand. Good. Sophie turned back to Marcus. I think we should let her try Daddy. Mommy always said people can change if they really want to. Your mommy was an optimist. Is that bad? No, baby girl, it's the best thing anyone can be. Dr. Martinez appeared in the doorway, relief flooding her face when she saw Marcus awake. Good morning, Mr. Chen. Glad to see you've decided to join us. Didn't have much choice. This one wouldn't let me stay away. He squeezed Sophie's hand. You gave us quite a scare. That bullet came within millimeters of your heart. Story of my life, always cutting it close. The good news is, you're going to make a full recovery. The bad news is, you'll be here for at least a week, possibly 2. Physical therapy after that. I can't afford. It's covered. Victoria's voice was firm. All of it, non-negotiable. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. Pick your battles, he reminded himself, and this wasn't a battle worth fighting. Fine. Thank you. Thank me by getting better. Thank me by being there for your daughter. Thank me by letting me make this right. Sophie yawned, the exhaustion of the night finally catching up with her. Baby girl, you need to sleep. I'm not leaving. I'm not asking you to leave. Just sleep. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise. That word again. The most dangerous word in the English language. Promise. Sophie climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed, curling up against her father's uninjured side. Within minutes, her breathing had evened out into the deep rhythm of sleep. Marcus looked at her, this brave, beautiful child, who had crossed the city alone to find him, who had sat vigil through the night, who had never given up hope. She's extraordinary, Victoria said softly. She's everything. I can see that. Victoria picked up her purse from the corner chair. I should go. Let you both rest. But I'll be back later with Emma. She wants to meet you properly. To thank you herself. That's not necessary. It is to her. And to me. Victoria paused at the door, looking back at the man in the hospital bed and the child sleeping beside him. I've met a lot of powerful people in my life, Marcus. Politicians, CEOs, billionaires. None of them come close to you. Not one. She left before he could respond. Marcus stared at the ceiling, processing everything that had happened. The shooting, the surgery, the job offer. The woman who had humiliated him now calling him powerful. His shoulder throbbed, his chest ached, his body screamed for rest. But Sophie was beside him, safe and warm, and for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Chen allowed himself to feel something he'd almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. Maybe things could be different. Maybe this was the turning point he'd been waiting for without knowing it. Maybe fate had plans he couldn't see yet. Or maybe it was just luck. Being in the wrong place at the right time. Surviving what should have killed him. Either way, he was alive. Sophie was safe. And tomorrow was coming, whether he was ready for it or not. He closed his eyes, let the exhaustion take him, and dreamed of pancakes with chocolate chip smiley faces. And somewhere in that dream, Elena was smiling at him. You did good, she whispered. You kept your promise. You came back to her. I always will, he promised. I always will. The hospital room settled into peace. Father and daughter survivors both holding on to each other through the longest night of their lives. And outside, the sun rose over San Francisco, painting the city in shades of gold and possibility. 3 days passed in a blur of doctors' medications and physical therapy sessions that left Marcus exhausted and irritable. Sophie refused to leave his side. Victoria had arranged for a private tutor to bring her schoolwork to the hospital, but Sophie barely touched it. She sat in the chair beside his bed, watching him like he might disappear if she looked away. "Baby girl, you need to go home." "This is home now." "Sophie." "You almost died, Daddy. I'm not leaving until you can walk out of here with me." Marcus sighed. He recognized that stubborn set of her jaw. She'd inherited it from Elena, along with her refusal to back down once she'd made up her mind. "At least eat something. You've barely touched your lunch." "Hospital food is gross." "It's not that bad." "Daddy, you're lying. I can tell when you're lying." He laughed, then winced as pain shot through his chest. "Okay, it's pretty bad, but you still need to eat." The door opened before Sophie could argue further. Victoria Ashford walked in, followed by a small figure hiding behind her legs. Emma. Marcus hadn't seen her since the shooting. In his fragmented memories of that night, she was a blur of terror and tears, a small body trembling beneath his as he shielded her from the bullet. Now she stood in the doorway, clutching a piece of paper, looking like she wanted to run. "Emma wanted to come see you," Victoria said. "She's been asking about you every day." "Hi, Emma." The little girl didn't move. "It's okay," Marcus said gently. "You can come closer. I don't bite." Emma took a hesitant step forward, then another. She stopped at the foot of his bed, her eyes fixed on the bandages visible through his hospital gown. "Does it hurt?" "A little, but it's getting better." "Because of me." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You got hurt because of me." "No." Marcus's voice was firm. "I got hurt because bad men did a bad thing. That's not your fault. None of it is your fault. But you jumped in front of the gun. For me. I did. Why?" The question hung in the air. Why would a stranger risk everything for a child he'd never met? Why would a man who'd been humiliated by her mother still choose to save her daughter? "Because that's what people do," Marcus said simply. "When someone's in danger, you help them. That's just how it works." Not everyone does that. Mommy's security guards didn't do that. They ran away. They were scared. It's okay to be scared. Were you scared? Marcus considered the question. "I didn't have time to be scared. I just saw you up there, and I knew I had to help." Emma held out the piece of paper she'd been clutching. "I made this for you." Marcus took it carefully, a drawing rendered in crayon with the earnest imperfection of childhood art. It showed a figure in blue standing between a smaller figure and something that was probably meant to be a gun. The protective figure had wings. "You're an angel," Emma explained. "That's what angels do. They protect people." Marcus's throat tightened. "This is beautiful, Emma. Thank you. I'm sorry my mommy was mean to you, before. She told me what she did. She feels really bad about it." "I know she does. She's not usually mean. She's just stressed a lot, and sometimes she forgets to be nice." "Emma." Victoria's voice carried a warning. "It's true, Mommy. You forget to be nice sometimes, but you're trying to be better. That's what you said." Victoria's face flushed. Being called out by her 8-year-old daughter was apparently not part of the plan. "She's right," Victoria said quietly. "I am trying to be better." Sophie had been watching this exchange from her chair, her expression unreadable. Now she stood and walked toward Emma. "I'm Sophie. My daddy is the one who saved you." Emma nodded. "I know. You're lucky. He's really brave." "I know he is." The two girls stared at each other, sizing each other up the way children do when they're deciding whether someone is friend or foe. "Do you like to read?" Sophie asked. "I love reading. I'm reading Harry Potter right now." "Which book?" "The third one, with the time travel." Sophie's eyes widened. "That's my favorite one. The part where Hermione punches Malfoy is the best." "I haven't gotten there yet. Don't spoil it." I won't, but it's really good. Just like that, the tension broke. Emma smiled. Sophie smiled back. And Marcus watched as something beautiful began to form between two children who had both stared down death and survived. "Can I sit with you?" Emma asked Sophie. "While our parents talk." "Sure. Do you want to see what I'm drawing?" "It's a knight, like my daddy." The girls moved to the corner of the room, heads bent together over Sophie's sketchbook. Victoria watched them for a moment, then turned to Marcus. "She's been having nightmares. Every night since the shooting. She wakes up screaming, asking for the brave man. Her therapist says it will take time." "Sophie too. She wakes up thinking I'm dead." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Kids are resilient. They'll get through it." "Will we?" The question caught Marcus off guard. Victoria Ashford, billionaire CEO, asking a janitor if they would survive trauma together. "I don't know," he admitted. "But we don't have much choice except to try." Victoria pulled the chair closer to his bed and sat down, her posture less rigid than before. She looked tired, human. "The media is going crazy," she said. "The video of you running toward the gunman has been viewed over 50 million times. Everyone wants to know who you are. They're calling you a hero. Some of them are calling me a villain." "You're not a villain. I made you kneel on the floor and clean up my mess, in front of dozens of people. If that's not villain behavior, I don't know what is." "It was a bad moment. Everyone has bad moments." "Not everyone has their bad moments broadcast to the entire world." Victoria pulled out her phone and showed him the screen. Headlines scrolled past. "Billionaire CEO humiliated. Hero hours before he saved her daughter. The janitor she mocked took a bullet for her child. Victoria Ashford villain or victim." "They got the security footage," Victoria explained. "Someone leaked it. The part where I yelled at you. The part where I threw the champagne. All of it." Marcus read the headlines feeling nothing. He'd faced worse judgment in the mountains of Afghanistan. The court of public opinion didn't scare him. "Does it bother you?" "Yes. Not because of what they're saying about me. I deserve that. But because it's taken what you did and turned it into a scandal. You saved my daughter's life. That should be the story, not my behavior beforehand." People like drama. People like tearing others down, especially women, especially successful women. Victoria's jaw tightened. "Half these articles are using what happened as an excuse to attack everything I've built. They don't care about you or your heroism. They care about watching me burn." "So what are you going to do?" "What I always do. Fight back. Set the record straight. But this time I want to do it right. I want to tell the real story, your story. The story of a war hero working as a janitor because the system failed him. The story of a single father drowning in medical debt, doing everything he can to keep his daughter fed and housed. That's my private life. I know, and I won't share anything you don't want shared. But Marcus, your story matters. It shows everything that's wrong with how we treat veterans in this country. How we cheer for them when they're fighting overseas and abandon them when they come home." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He'd spent 6 years trying to be invisible. The idea of becoming a symbol, a cause, a public figure, made his skin crawl. "I didn't save Emma to become famous." "I know you didn't. That's exactly why your story matters. Because you're not doing it for attention or money or recognition. You did it because it was right. And that's rarer than you think." The door opened again. Dr. Martinez entered, tablet in hand, followed by several people Marcus didn't recognize. "Mr. Chen, you have visitors. Quite a few of them, actually." Behind her, a group of men filed into the room. They wore civilian clothes, but Marcus recognized them immediately. The way they moved, the way they scanned the room for threats, the way they stood. Military. Iron Shadow. The man at the front of the group stepped forward. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, a scar running down his left cheek. "You look like hell." "Colonel Davis?" Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. What are you doing here? What do you think I'm doing here? One of my men takes a bullet on national television. You think I'm going to sit at home and watch the news? I'm not one of your men anymore. I'm just a janitor. Bullshit. Davis moved to the bedside, his eyes taking in the monitors, the bandages, the damage. Once a Green Beret, always a Green Beret. You know that. How many of you came? 12 so far. More on the way. The guys couldn't stay home, not after what they saw. Davis turned to look at the men behind him. These are your brothers, Marcus. They came to make sure you're okay. One by one they approached. Names Marcus hadn't heard in years. Faces from missions he tried not to remember. Men who had fought beside him, bled beside him, watched friends die beside him. Sergeant Chen. A younger man, probably 30, with the build of someone who still ran 5 miles every morning. I was in your extraction team in Kandahar. You saved my life twice. Rodriguez, I remember. You said you were just a janitor. That's crap. You're a hero. Always have been. Another man stepped forward. Older, weathered, missing 2 fingers on his left hand. You pulled me out of a burning vehicle in Helmand Province. Carried me half a mile to the evac point with bullets flying everywhere. Didn't think twice about it. Jackson. How's the arm? Still works. Thanks to you. One after another they came. Each with a story. Each with a debt they felt they owed. Marcus listened, overwhelmed by memories he'd tried to bury, by a past he'd tried to leave behind. Victoria stood in the corner watching. Understanding slowly dawning on her face. This wasn't just a man who'd saved her daughter. This was a man who had saved dozens of lives, maybe hundreds in the shadows of war. A man who had given everything for his country and received nothing in return but nightmares and medical debt. Why didn't you tell anyone? She asked when the introductions finally ended. Why didn't you use your service record to get help? There are programs for veterans. Resources. I tried, Marcus said quietly. The VA wait times are months long. The programs have more applicants than slots. And honestly, I didn't want help. I wanted to be normal, to be invisible, to just be Sophie's dad. But you're not normal. You never were. That's the problem. Colonel Davis pulled up a chair, settling in like he planned to stay for a while. We need to talk about what happens next, Marcus. I'm going to recover. Go back to work. Take care of Sophie. Go back to mopping floors for minimum wage. After what you did. It's honest work. It's a waste. Davis leaned forward, his voice intense. You have skills that could save lives. Real skills. Not the kind you learn in a classroom. The kind that get burned into your bones in combat. And you're using them to fix toilets. I have a daughter. She needs stability. She needs a father who isn't working himself to death for nothing. Davis glanced at Sophie, who was still in the corner with Emma, both girls now watching the exchange with wide eyes. She needs to see that her dad's sacrifice matters, that being a hero doesn't mean you have to be poor. What do you want me to do? Accept Ms. Ashford's offer. Take the security job. Let someone help you for once. Marcus looked at Victoria, then at his military brothers, then at Sophie. Everyone waiting for his answer. Everyone wanting him to say yes. I don't know how to be visible, he admitted. I've spent 6 years trying to disappear, trying to be no one. It's safer that way. Safer for who? Davis asked. Because it's sure as hell not safer for Sophie. She's been watching you struggle for years. Watching you come home exhausted. Watching you skip meals so she can eat. That's not safety. That's survival. And there's a difference. Sophie stood up from her corner and walked toward her father. Her face was serious, determined. Daddy, can I say something? Of course, baby girl. I know you think you're protecting me by working so hard, by not asking for help, but I'm not stupid. I know we're poor. I know you're tired all the time. I know you gave up everything to take care of me. Sophie, let me finish. Her voice was sharp, too old for her 9 years. I love you, Daddy. You're my hero. But I don't want you to be a hero who dies young because he was too proud to accept help. I want you to be a hero who lives, who's there for my graduation, who walks me down the aisle when I get married, who teaches my kids how to make pancakes. Marcus's eyes burned. Where did you learn to give speeches like that? Mommy, she used to say that love means wanting someone to live more than you want to be right. The room went silent. Elena's wisdom spoken through their daughter's mouth hit Marcus like a physical blow. He looked at Victoria, at Davis, at the room full of men who had come across the country to stand by him. Fine, he said quietly. I'll take the job. Victoria's face broke into relief. Really? On conditions. Name them. Sophie's school stays the same. I don't want her uprooted again. She's already lost too much. Done. I'll arrange transportation. I work my own hours. When Sophie needs me, I'm there. No exceptions. Understood. And this isn't charity. I work for what I earn. You don't treat me like a project or a cause. I'm an employee, same as everyone else. You'll be more than an employee. You'll be head of security for the entire company. But I understand what you're saying. No special treatment. Just respect. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay then. Sophie threw her arms around him, careful of his injuries. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you for letting us help. I didn't have much choice. You inherited your mother's stubbornness. And your bravery. Davis stood extending his hand. Marcus took it, feeling the familiar strength of a grip forged in combat. Welcome back, Iron Shadow. It's good to have you in the light again. Don't call me that. Why not? It's who you are. It's who I was. I'm someone different now. No. Davis shook his head. You're exactly who you always were. The world just gets to see it now. Emma approached the bed, hesitant but determined. Mr. Chen, I mean Marcus. Yes, Emma. Does this mean you'll be around more, like at my house sometimes? I suppose it does. Good. She smiled, and for the first time since the shooting, it reached her eyes. Because I still have nightmares. And when I wake up scared, I think about you, about how you saved me. It helps me feel safe. You are safe, Emma. Nobody's going to hurt you. I know, because you're here now. Sophie took Emma's hand. We can be nightmare buddies. When you have a bad dream, you can call me. I'll tell you about my daddy, the brave knight. And you'll feel better. Really? Really? That's what friends do. Friends. The word seemed to unlock something in both girls. Two children brought together by violence, finding comfort in each other. Victoria wiped her eyes, not bothering to hide her tears. I think this is the beginning of something good, she said. For all of us. Marcus looked at his daughter, at Emma, at the room full of people who had come to support him. For 6 years he'd carried everything alone, the grief, the debt, the exhaustion, the crushing weight of being solely responsible for another human being. Now, for the first time, he felt that weight begin to lift. Not because his problems were solved. The debt was still there. The nightmares were still there. The bullet wound in his chest was still there. But he wasn't alone anymore. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. When can I get out of here? He asked Dr. Martinez. Another week at least. You need to continue physical therapy. Your lung function needs to improve. A week? Marcus sighed. That's a long time. Consider it a vacation, Davis said. When's the last time you had a week off? I don't remember. Exactly. Rest. Heal. Let people take care of you for once. Davis turned to Victoria. Ms. Ashford, I'd like to offer my services as well. I've got 25 years of military experience and a network of veterans who would jump at the chance to work for a company that actually values what they bring. If you're building a security team, I can help you build the best one in the country." Victoria's eyes widened. "Colonel Davis, I would be honored." "Call me James. We're past formalities now." "James then, and please call me Victoria." Sophie tugged at Marcus's sleeve. "Daddy, does this mean we're going to be okay, like really okay?" Marcus looked at her, this brave little girl who had already survived so much, who had crossed a city alone to find him, who had refused to give up hope even when hope seemed impossible. "Yeah, baby girl, I think we're going to be really okay." "Good." She rested her head against his shoulder, careful not to hurt him. "Because I was getting really tired of ramen noodles." Marcus laughed, and for the first time in 6 years, it didn't hurt. The hospital room was crowded with people now. Military brothers swapping stories, Victoria and Davis discussing security protocols. Sophie and Emma huddled together planning their new friendship. It was chaos. It was loud. It was overwhelming. It was exactly what a family looked like. And Marcus Chen, the invisible man, finally allowed himself to be seen. 2 weeks later, Marcus walked out of SF General Hospital on his own 2 feet. Sophie held his hand on one side. Victoria stood on the other, ready to catch him if he stumbled. Behind them, Colonel Davis and 3 of Marcus's military brothers formed an informal honor guard. The media was waiting outside. Cameras, microphones, reporters shouting questions. "Mr. Chen, how does it feel to be called a hero? Marcus, will you accept Victoria Ashford's job offer? What do you say to critics who claim this is all a PR stunt?" Marcus stopped walking. The reporters fell silent, sensing they might actually get something. "I'm not a hero," he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "I'm a father. I saw a child in danger, and I did what any parent would do. That's not heroism, that's instinct. But you risked your life. I'd do it again, for any child, anywhere. That's not special. That's just being human." He looked directly into the nearest camera. "But since you're here, I want to say something else. I spent 6 years invisible, working jobs that paid nothing, drowning in debt, struggling to keep my daughter fed and housed, and nobody cared. Nobody saw me." The crowd was completely still. There are thousands of veterans out there right now going through the same thing. Men and women who served this country, who risked everything, who came home broken, and we forget about them. We thank them for their service, and then we let them fall through the cracks. Marcus squeezed Sophie's hand. "I got lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, and someone finally saw me. But luck shouldn't be the difference between drowning and surviving. We should be taking care of each other, all of us, all the time." He turned and walked toward the waiting car before anyone could ask another question. Victoria fell into step beside him. That was unexpected. Was it wrong? No, it was perfect. Sophie tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, you sounded like a politician. God forbid. A good politician, the kind that actually means what they say." Marcus laughed, then winced as his shoulder protested. The wound was healing, but it would be months before he felt normal again, if he ever felt normal again. "Where are we going?" he asked as they reached the car. Victoria hesitated. "I had my team prepare an apartment for you, near Sophie's school. 3 bedrooms fully furnished." "I have an apartment." "Marcus, your apartment is a 1-bedroom in a neighborhood with a crime rate that makes my security team nervous. Sophie deserves better." "Sophie deserves stability. She's already lost enough. I'm not uprooting her." "The new apartment is closer to her school than your current one, and it has room for her to have friends over, a proper kitchen, a bedroom that isn't a converted closet." Sophie squeezed Marcus's hand. "Daddy, maybe we should look at it. Just look." Marcus looked down at his daughter, at the hope in her eyes, at the way she was trying not to get excited because she'd learned too young that hope was dangerous. "Fine, we'll look." Victoria's driver took them across the city to a building Marcus had walked past dozens of times without ever imagining he'd live there. Not fancy by billionaire standards, but solid, clean, safe. The apartment was on the 5th floor. Sophie pressed the elevator button, bouncing on her heels with barely contained energy. "This is so cool. A real elevator. Our building doesn't even have one." "Our building doesn't have a lot of things." The door opened onto a hallway that smelled like fresh paint rather than mildew. Victoria led them to apartment 5B and handed Marcus the key. "Go ahead." Marcus unlocked the door and stepped inside. Sophie gasped. It wasn't huge. Maybe twice the size of their current place. But it was clean. Bright. The furniture was simple but comfortable. The kitchen had actual counter space. And through a doorway, Marcus could see a bedroom with a bed that looked like a cloud. "There are 3 bedrooms," Victoria said. "One for you, one for Sophie, and one that could be an office, or a guest room, whatever you need." Sophie had already disappeared down the hallway. Her voice echoed back. "Daddy, I have my own room, with a real bed and a desk, and a window that looks at trees." Marcus stood in the middle of the living room, overwhelmed. "I can't afford this." "You're not paying for it. It's part of your compensation package." "Victoria." "Before you argue, listen to me." Victoria stepped closer, her voice softening. "I made you kneel on the floor and clean up my mess. I called you invisible. I told you to learn your place. And then you saved my daughter. You almost died saving my daughter." Her voice cracked. "I can't undo what I did. I can't take back those words. But I can make sure you never have to struggle again. I can make sure Sophie has a safe place to grow up. Please, Marcus, let me do this. Not for my conscience. For you. Because you deserve it." Sophie came running back into the living room. "Daddy, please say yes. Please. I've never had my own room before. Never." Marcus looked at his daughter. At the tears in her eyes. At the joy she was trying to contain because she still didn't believe good things could happen to them. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. We'll stay." Sophie threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Thank you, Daddy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." "Thank Ms. Ashford. This is her doing." "Thank you, Victoria." Sophie turned to hug her too, which clearly caught Victoria off guard. The billionaire CEO stood frozen for a moment, then awkwardly patted Sophie's back. "You're welcome, Sophie. You're very welcome." Marcus watched the exchange with something shifting in his chest. Victoria Ashford, the woman who had humiliated him, standing in an apartment she'd provided, being hugged by his daughter. The world had gotten very strange, very fast. The first day at Ashford Technologies was overwhelming. Marcus had worn suits before, but never one that cost more than his monthly rent. Victoria's personal stylist had insisted overriding his protests with professional efficiency. "You're the head of security for a Fortune 500 company. You need to look the part." "I look like a corporate robot." "You look professional. There's a difference." Now he stood in the lobby of Ashford headquarters, watching employees stream past him on their way to offices he'd never seen. Some of them recognized him from the news coverage. They stared, whispered. A few approached to shake his hand. "Mr. Chen, it's an honor. We saw what you did. You're a hero. Welcome to Ashford. We're lucky to have you." Marcus nodded and smiled and tried not to feel like a fraud. "You'll get used to it." David Chen, no relation despite the name, appeared beside him. Victoria's current head of security, soon to be his second in command. "The staring stops after the first week. Then you're just another face in the building." "I don't want to be stared at." "Should have thought of that before you saved the boss's daughter on national television." David grinned. "Come on, Victoria's waiting for us in the security center." The security center was impressive. Monitors covering every angle of the building. communication systems that could coordinate responses across multiple locations, technology Marcus had only seen in military installations. "This is your domain now," Victoria said, gesturing to the room. "David will show you the systems, introduce you to the team, but I wanted to talk to you first, privately." David took the hint and stepped outside. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. "Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to prepare you." Victoria sat on the edge of a desk, her corporate armor slipping slightly. "The board isn't happy about this. Some of them think hiring you is a PR stunt. Others think you're underqualified. A few are actively trying to undermine the decision. So fire them." Victoria laughed. "I wish I could. But that's not how corporate governance works. I need their support for major decisions, and right now you're controversial. I can handle controversy. I know you can, but I want you to be prepared for pushback. Some people are going to test you, challenge your authority, try to prove that you don't belong here. People have been trying to prove that my whole life. I'm still here. Good, because I'm counting on you." Victoria stood. "There's something else. I'm launching a foundation, the Marcus Chen Foundation for Veteran Families." Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "It's going to provide housing assistance, job placement, childcare support, and college scholarships for veteran families. I'm seeding it with $50 million. More as we scale. You're naming a foundation after me. You're the reason it exists. Your story showed me everything that's broken about how we treat veterans. I want to fix it, or at least start trying." "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll help run it. Say you'll use your platform to raise awareness. Say you'll turn what happened to you into something that helps thousands of families." Marcus thought about the years he'd spent struggling. The VA offices with months-long wait times, the job applications that went nowhere, the nights he'd skipped dinner so Sophie could eat. "Okay," he said. "I'm in." "Good." Victoria extended her hand. "Welcome to Ashford Technologies, Mr. Chen." Marcus shook it. "Marcus, if we're going to work together, you should probably call me Marcus." "Only if you call me Victoria." "I thought I already did." "You did. I just wanted to make it official." The first month was brutal. Marcus spent 14-hour days learning systems, meeting staff, reviewing protocols. His military training helped, but corporate security was a different beast than battlefield operations. More politics, more paperwork, more people questioning his every decision. The board members who opposed his hiring made their displeasure known. Snide comments in meetings. Emails copied to executives questioning his competence. Whisper campaigns suggesting he was just a diversity hire, a PR prop, a feel-good story with no real substance. Marcus ignored them. He'd faced worse in Kandahar. Sophie adapted faster than he did. The new apartment became home within a week. She decorated her room with photos of Elena drawings from Emma and a framed copy of the newspaper headline that had changed their lives. "Hero Janitor Saves Billionaire's Daughter." "Why do you keep that?" Marcus asked one night, pointing at the frame. "Because it reminds me that everything can change in one moment. Good things can happen even when you're not expecting them." That's pretty philosophical for a 9-year-old. "I'm almost 10, and I'm very mature for my age." Marcus laughed and pulled her into a hug. "You certainly are." Emma visited almost every day. The two girls had become inseparable, their friendship born from shared trauma and strengthened by genuine affection. They did homework together, watched movies together, invented elaborate games that Marcus couldn't follow, but that made them laugh until they couldn't breathe. Victoria came too sometimes. At first it was just to pick up Emma. Then she started staying for dinner. Then she started helping with homework. Then one night, Marcus looked up and realized she'd been there for 4 hours and nobody had noticed. "You don't have to keep checking on us," he told her. "We're fine." "I'm not checking on you. I'm eating your terrible cooking because my personal chef has the night off and I can't boil water without burning it." "My cooking is not terrible. You put ketchup on scrambled eggs." That's a legitimate culinary choice. It's an abomination. Sophie giggled from her spot on the couch. She's right, Daddy. Ketchup on eggs is gross. Traitor. I call it like I see it. These moments became the rhythm of Marcus's new life. Work during the day, family in the evening, Sophie thriving in a way he'd never dared hope for. A friendship with Victoria that felt increasingly like something more, though neither of them acknowledged it. 3 months after the shooting, the foundation launched. The event was held in the same ballroom where everything had changed. Marcus had resisted at first, too many bad memories, too much trauma associated with the space, but Victoria convinced him. "We're reclaiming it," she said, taking something that was terrible and making it meaningful. Now he stood at the podium, looking out at 500 faces. Veteran families who had traveled from across the country. Military leaders, politicians, media representatives. And in the front row, Sophie and Emma sitting on either side of Victoria, all three of them beaming with pride. "I don't like speeches," Marcus began. "I spent 12 years in Special Forces and we didn't talk much. We just did the job and went home. Or didn't go home, depending on how the mission went." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. "But Victoria told me I had to say something tonight. That my story matters, that people need to hear it." He gripped the podium. "So here's my story, the real one, not the hero version you saw on TV." He paused, gathering himself. "I joined the army at 18 because I didn't have other options. My family was poor. College wasn't possible. The military offered a way out, a way to become something. I served 12 years, 3 deployments. I lost friends. I took lives. I did things I'm not proud of, and things I'm very proud of. And when I came home, I thought I'd be okay. I thought I'd earned something. I was wrong." The room was completely silent. "My wife got sick. Cancer. We didn't have the insurance to fight it properly. I left the military to take care of her, but she died anyway. And then I had a daughter to raise and no way to raise her. I applied to 100 jobs, got rejected from 95 of them. Overqualified, they said, or underqualified for corporate work. The 5 jobs I got paid barely enough to survive. I worked double shifts. I skipped meals. I watched my daughter grow up in an apartment that was falling apart, wearing clothes from thrift stores, asking why we couldn't have nice things like the other kids." Marcus looked at Sophie. She was crying but smiling. "I became invisible. That's what happens when you're poor in America. You disappear. People look right through you. They don't see your service, your sacrifice, your humanity. They just see another body in a uniform mopping their floors, fixing their toilets, staying out of sight like a good little worker." Then one night I was working at a gala. Rich people raising money for charity. And something happened that changed everything. He didn't describe the shooting. Everyone knew that part. I didn't save that little girl because I'm a hero. I saved her because I saw my own daughter in her eyes. I saw every child who deserves to grow up safe and loved. I saw humanity, and I couldn't look away. That's what this foundation is about. Not me. Not my story. It's about seeing each other. All of us. The veterans struggling to find work. The single parents drowning in debt. The families one medical emergency away from losing everything. We need to see each other. We need to help each other. We need to stop letting people become invisible." Marcus stepped back from the podium. "The Marcus Chen Foundation will provide housing jobs, childcare, and education for veteran families. But more than that, it will provide recognition, dignity, the knowledge that your service mattered, that your sacrifice counted, that you are not alone. Because you're not. You never were. We just forgot to look." The applause started slowly, then built into a standing ovation. Marcus stood at the podium, overwhelmed, as 500 people rose to their feet to honor not just him, but everyone he represented. Sophie broke free from her seat and ran toward the stage. Marcus met her halfway, lifting her into his arms, despite the protest from his healing shoulder. "You did it, Daddy. You changed everything. We did it, baby girl. All of us." Victoria joined them, Emma holding her hand. The four of them stood together as cameras flashed and the crowd continued to applaud. Later that night, after the guests had left and the ballroom had emptied, Marcus found himself alone on the same stage where he'd nearly died. Victoria found him there, staring at the spot where he'd fallen. "Penny, for your thoughts." "I was thinking about Elena, wondering if she'd be proud." "She would be. I never met her, but I know she would be." "How do you know?" "Because Sophie is proud, and Sophie is her mother's daughter." Marcus turned to look at Victoria. In the dim light, with her corporate armor stripped away, she looked younger, softer, human. "Thank you," he said, "for everything. The job, the apartment, the foundation, all of it. You don't have to thank me. You saved my daughter." "That's not why you did it." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "No, it's not. I did it because you showed me what I was missing, what I'd become. I was so focused on building an empire that I forgot to build anything that mattered. And now I'm trying to remember, to be the person Emma deserves, the person I used to be before success made me cold." "You're not cold, you're just guarded." "Same thing sometimes." Marcus shook his head. "No. Cold people don't sit in hospital rooms with children who aren't theirs. Cold people don't build foundations to help strangers. Cold people don't look at a janitor and decide he deserves better." "I didn't see you as a janitor, not after that night. What do you see me as?" Victoria met his eyes. "A partner, a friend, someone who challenges me to be better." She paused. "Someone I'm grateful to know." "That's a lot." "You asked." They stood in comfortable silence, the empty ballroom holding echoes of everything that had happened there. The screams, the gunshots, the moment Marcus had chosen to run toward death instead of away from it. "Sophie asked me something today," Marcus said finally. "What?" "She asked if we were going to be a family. You, me, her, Emma." Victoria's breath caught. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know, that families are complicated, that sometimes people who care about each other are still just friends." "And what do you think?" Marcus considered the question. He thought about Elena, about the love they'd shared, about the promise he'd made to her before she died. "Live," she'd said. "Don't just survive. Live." "I think," he said slowly, "that I've spent 6 years being afraid. Afraid of getting close to anyone. Afraid of letting Sophie get attached. Afraid of losing something else. And now I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of surviving instead of living. I'm tired of being invisible." Victoria reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were warm, her grip steady. "Then don't be invisible anymore. Let people see you. Let yourself be happy." "Is that an order?" "It's a request, from someone who's also tired of being alone." Marcus looked at their joined hands, at this woman who had humiliated him, redeemed herself, and somehow become essential to his life. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, what?" "Okay, let's try. You and me, Sophie and Emma, whatever this is, whatever it becomes. Let's try." Victoria smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it reached her eyes. "I'd like that." "Good. Because I think Sophie and Emma have already decided for us. They're good kids. The best." Marcus squeezed her hand. "We should go. It's late. Sophie will be worried." "Emma, too." They walked out of the ballroom together, leaving behind the ghosts of that terrible night. Ahead of them, somewhere in the city, 2 little girls were probably already planning the wedding. Marcus laughed at the thought. "What's funny?" Victoria asked. "Nothing. Just thinking about the future." "Good things." "Yeah, for the first time in a long time. Good things." They stepped into the night together, 2 people who had found each other in the worst possible circumstances, and somehow built something worth keeping. Behind them, the ballroom lights went dark. But ahead the city sparkled with possibility. 1 year later, Marcus Chen stood in front of a mirror, adjusting a tie he still wasn't comfortable wearing. "You look nervous," Victoria said from the doorway. "I am nervous. I hate these things." "You've given 30 speeches this year. You should be used to it by now." "I'm used to it. Doesn't mean I like it." Victoria crossed the room and fixed his tie, her fingers brushing against his chest where the scar from the bullet still lived. She didn't flinch anymore when she touched it. Neither did he. "You're going to be fine. You're always fine." "Easy for you to say. You grew up giving speeches." "I grew up terrified of giving speeches. I just learned to hide it." She stepped back, examining her work. "There. Now you look like someone who runs security for a Fortune 500 company." "I look like a corporate robot." "You look handsome." Sophie's word, not mine. "Sophie thinks everyone looks handsome in a suit." "Sophie has good taste." The door burst open, and 2 girls tumbled into the room, arguing about something that sounded vitally important to them and completely incomprehensible to anyone over 12. "Dad, tell Emma that chocolate cake is better than vanilla." "Vanilla is classic. Chocolate is basic." "Basic. Take that back." "Girls." Marcus held up his hands. "This is a conversation neither of us is going to win. How about both?" Sophie considered this. "Both is acceptable." "Both is a compromise," Emma corrected, "which means nobody really wins." "Welcome to adulthood," Victoria said dryly. "It's all compromise." The girls rolled their eyes in perfect synchronization, a habit they'd developed over the past year that never failed to amuse Marcus. Sophie was 10 now, taller, more confident. Her eyes still carried shadows from everything she'd been through, but they also carried light, real genuine light that hadn't been there a year ago. Emma had changed too. Less anxious, more open. She laughed easier now, smiled wider, no longer flinched at loud noises. The nightmares had faded, replaced by dreams that didn't make her wake up screaming. They'd healed each other, these 2 girls. Found something in their shared trauma that neither could have found alone. "Are you ready?" Sophie asked Marcus. "The car is waiting." "As ready as I'll ever be." "That's not very confident." "I'm confident in my lack of confidence. Does that count?" Sophie laughed and grabbed his hand. "Come on, brave knight. Time to save the world again." The Foundation's 1-year anniversary gala was held in a community center in Oakland, not a luxury hotel ballroom. Marcus had insisted. These were the people they were trying to help: working families, veterans struggling to get by, single parents drowning in debt. They didn't need crystal chandeliers. They needed to feel seen. Over 500 people filled the space. Some were beneficiaries of the Foundation's programs, families who had received housing assistance, veterans who had found jobs through their placement services, children who were attending school on Foundation scholarships. Others were donor supporters, media representatives covering the anniversary. Colonel Davis met them at the entrance, his face breaking into the rare smile he reserved for people he actually liked. "Iron Shadow, you clean up nice." "Stop calling me that." "Never." Davis pulled him into a brief hug, mindful of the cameras nearby. "You ready for this?" "Everyone keeps asking me that. The answer is still no." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." "I'm not afraid. I'm just uncomfortable with attention." "Same thing sometimes." They walked into the main hall together. Marcus felt the familiar wave of recognition as people turned to look at him. A year later, his face was still recognizable. The hero janitor. The invisible man who became visible. The symbol of everything wrong with how America treated its veterans, and everything right about human courage. He hated it. And he'd learned to accept it. Sophie and Emma had already found their seats in the front row, heads bent together over Sophie's phone, probably looking at something they shouldn't be looking at. Victoria sat beside them, managing to look both powerful and maternal at the same time. Marcus took his place at the podium and waited for the room to settle. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "I know I'm supposed to give an inspiring speech about how far we've come and how much more we can do, but honestly, I'm tired of inspiring speeches." Surprised laughter rippled through the crowd. "What I want to do instead is tell you some stories, real stories, about real people, about what this foundation has actually accomplished." He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. "This is a letter I received last month, from a woman named Jessica Martinez, single mother, 2 kids. She served 2 tours in Iraq. When she came home, she couldn't find work. Her husband had died in Afghanistan 3 years earlier. She was working 3 jobs, barely sleeping, watching her kids grow up without her, because survival took everything she had." Marcus unfolded the letter and began to read. "Dear Mr. Chen, I don't know how to say thank you for what your foundation has done for my family. 6 months ago, I was ready to give up. I had lost hope. I thought the world had forgotten about people like me. Then your people reached out. They helped me find housing, helped me find a job that actually uses my skills, helped my kids get into better schools. But more than that, they saw me. For the first time in years, someone actually saw me." He looked up at the crowd. "I named my daughter Elena after your wife, because you told me once that Elena was the bravest person you ever knew. I want my daughter to grow up brave like that, to know that her mom survived because someone cared. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Thank you for not looking away." The room was completely silent. "We've helped over 3,000 families this year." Marcus continued, his voice steady, despite the emotion threatening to crack it. 3,000 families who were invisible. 3,000 families who were struggling. 3,000 families who just needed someone to see them. He folded the letter and returned it to his pocket. "But this isn't about numbers. It's about people. Each one of those families has a story like Jessica's. Each one has children who are now getting the chances they deserve. Each one has parents who can finally breathe." He looked at Sophie, who was watching him with tears streaming down her face. "A year ago, I was one of those invisible people, working a job that paid nothing, living in an apartment that was falling apart, wondering how I was going to survive another week. And then something terrible happened, something that almost killed me. But out of that terrible thing came something beautiful. A chance to start over, a chance to help others, a chance to turn my pain into purpose. That's what this foundation is about. Taking the worst moments of our lives and transforming them into something that matters. Proving that suffering doesn't have to be meaningless. That sacrifice can lead to something greater." Marcus stepped back from the podium. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a father who got lucky. But if my luck can help other families find their way, then maybe it was worth it. Maybe everything I went through had a reason. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for seeing the invisible. Thank you for believing that we can do better." He left the stage to thunderous applause, but he barely heard it. His eyes were fixed on Sophie, who had left her seat and was running toward him. She crashed into his arms like she had 1,000 times before, her face buried against his chest. "I'm so proud of you, Daddy." "I'm proud of you too, baby girl. Always." Emma joined them a moment later, followed by Victoria. The 4 of them stood together in the middle of the crowded room, holding on to each other while the world swirled around them. "Can we go home now?" Sophie asked. "I'm tired of sharing you with everyone." Marcus laughed. "Yeah, let's go home." Home. A year ago, that word had meant a cramped apartment and constant fear. Now it meant something different. A place with room to breathe. People who loved each other. A future that held promise instead of despair. They slipped out through a side door, avoiding the press and well-wishers who wanted more of Marcus's time. Victoria's driver was waiting, the car already running. "Successful evening," Victoria said as they settled into the back seat. It felt good, different than the corporate speeches. More real. Because it was real. Those people aren't investors or board members. They're families you've actually helped. We've helped. This isn't my foundation. It's ours. Victoria smiled and took his hand. They'd been doing that a lot lately, holding hands, stealing moments, building something neither of them had expected to find. Sophie and Emma were already asleep against each other in the seat across from them, exhausted from a long day of being displayed like foundation mascots. "They're good kids," Marcus said quietly. "The best. We got lucky." Lucky isn't the word I'd use. What word would you use? Marcus thought about it. Blessed. Despite everything. Despite the shooting and the struggles and the years of being invisible. I feel blessed. Even the bad parts. Especially the bad parts, because they led here. Victoria leaned her head against his shoulder. I used to think I had everything figured out. Money, power, success. I thought that was what mattered. And now I know I was wrong. This matters. She gestured at the sleeping girls at their joined hands at the city lights streaming past the windows. Family, connection, people who see you for who you really are. You see me. I didn't at first. I looked right through you. You see me now. I do. She lifted her head to meet his eyes. I see a man who has every reason to be bitter but chooses to be generous. Who has every right to hate me but chose to forgive. Who lost everything and somehow found a way to give even more. That's very poetic. I'm practicing. Sophie says I need to be more emotional. Sophie says a lot of things. She's usually right. Marcus couldn't argue with that. The car pulled up to their building. Not the luxury penthouse Victoria could have afforded, but the 3-bedroom apartment that had become home. They'd talked about getting a bigger place, something that could fit all 4 of them comfortably, but Sophie had resisted. This is where we became a family, she'd said. I don't want to leave. So they'd stayed. Victoria spent more nights here than at her own place. Now her designer clothes, mixed in with Marcus's practical wardrobe, her expensive skincare products, crowding his simple soap. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what either of them had planned. But it was real. Marcus carried Sophie up to the apartment while Victoria guided a half-asleep Emma through the door. They tucked both girls into Sophie's bed, which had somehow become their shared space, and stood in the doorway, watching them sleep. She asked me again today, Victoria whispered. Asked what? If we're going to get married. Marcus's heart stuttered. What did you tell her? I told her that was up to you. That's a cop-out. It's the truth. I know what I want. I've known for months. But you've been through so much. Lost so much. I didn't want to push. Marcus turned to face her fully. In the dim light from the hallway with her guard down and her heart open, she looked nothing like the cold CEO who had humiliated him a year ago. What do you want? He asked. I want this, us, our strange, unexpected, beautiful family. I want to wake up every morning knowing you're there. I want to watch our daughters grow up together. I want to build something that lasts. That's a lot. I know. I'm sorry if it's too much. It's not. Marcus took both her hands in his. It's not too much. It's exactly right. So yes. The answer is yes. Whenever you're ready. However you want to do it. Yes. Victoria's face transformed. Relief, joy, love, all of it pouring through the cracks in her armor. Really? Did you think I'd say no? I didn't know. You're hard to read sometimes. I'm an open book. You just have to pay attention. She laughed and kissed him soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Sophie's voice drifted from the bedroom. Finally. Emma owes me $10. You were awake. Victoria pulled back mortified. Obviously. And we heard everything. So yes, you're getting married, and yes, Emma and I are going to be sisters for real, and yes, I'm very happy, but also very tired, so can you please stop being mushy and go to bed? Marcus laughed so hard, his healing shoulder ached. Go to sleep, troublemaker. I will if you will. Deal. They closed the bedroom door and stood in the hallway, the enormity of the moment settling over them. So that happened, Victoria said. That happened. We're engaged. Apparently. Sophie bet Emma we'd get together. She won $10. Of course she did. That kid sees everything. Victoria leaned against the wall, suddenly looking exhausted. It's been quite a year. The understatement of the century. Do you ever think about it? What would have happened if things had been different? Different how? If the shooting hadn't happened? If I'd never met you? If you'd just stayed invisible? Marcus considered the question. He'd asked himself the same thing 1,000 times. I think about it, but I don't dwell on it. Because this is where we are. This is what matters. Not the what-ifs or the might-have-beens. Just this. You're very zen for a former soldier. I'm very tired for a former soldier. Zen comes with exhaustion. Let's go to bed. Tomorrow is going to be complicated. Tomorrow is always complicated, but at least we'll face it together. They walked to the bedroom, their bedroom now, and Marcus paused at the threshold. Victoria. Yes. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. For giving me a chance. For not letting me stay invisible. Victoria reached up and touched his face, her fingers tracing the lines that life had carved there. Thank you for running toward danger instead of away. Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for showing me what courage really looks like. We make a good team. The best team. They fell asleep, holding each other the way they did most nights now. Two people who had found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow built a life worth living. The wedding happened 3 months later. Small, intimate, held in the community center where the foundation gala had taken place, surrounded by families they'd helped rather than celebrities they'd impressed. Sophie served as Marcus's best man. Emma served as Victoria's maid of honor. Colonel Davis officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. I've performed a lot of ceremonies in my career, Davis said as they stood before him. Promotions, awards, military funerals. But this is my favorite, because this is about hope. About two people who survived the worst and chose to build the best. He turned to Marcus. Do you, Marcus Chen, take Victoria Ashford to be your wife? To love her, support her, and stand by her, to be her partner in whatever challenges and joys life brings. Marcus looked at Victoria, seeing everything she was and everything she'd become. I do. Davis turned to Victoria. Do you, Victoria Ashford, take Marcus Chen to be your husband? To love him, support him, and stand by him, to be his partner in whatever challenges and joys life brings? Victoria's eyes glistened. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the internet and the state of California, I pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus, you may kiss your bride. He did. The room erupted in cheers. Sophie grabbed Emma's hand and squeezed. We're sisters now, for real. We were always sisters. Now we just have the paperwork. The reception was simple. Good food, good music. People who actually cared about the couple instead of their combined net worth. Marcus danced with Sophie, then with Emma, then with Victoria again. Happy? She asked as they swayed together. More than I ever thought possible. Any regrets? Not a single one. Around them, their families celebrated. Military brothers sharing stories from deployments. Foundation beneficiaries thanking them for changing their lives. Two little girls dancing together like they'd been sisters since birth. This was what mattered. Not the money, or the power, or the public recognition. Just people who loved each other choosing to build a life together. Later that night, after the guests had left and the girls had collapsed into exhausted sleep, Marcus stood on the balcony of their apartment, looking out at the city. Victoria found him there, wrapped in a blanket against the cool night air. Can't sleep. Just thinking. About what? Elena. Victoria came to stand beside him, not saying anything, just being present. I wonder if she'd approve. Of all this. Of you. Of the life we're building. What do you think she'd say? Marcus smiled, remembering his wife's voice, her laugh, the way she'd looked at him when she was dying. She'd say it's about damn time. She'd say I was an idiot for waiting so long to be happy. She'd say Sophie deserves a complete family, and I deserve to stop punishing myself for surviving when she didn't. She sounds wise. She was. The wisest person I ever knew. He turned to face Victoria. She'd like you. She'd see past the CEO armor to the real person underneath. She'd probably tell you that you need to relax more. She'd be right. She usually was. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights sparkle below. I made her a promise, Marcus said finally. Before she died, she made me promise to live. Not just survive, but really live. To let myself be happy. To give Sophie a good life. You've done that. It took a while, but yeah, I think I finally have. Victoria took his hand, her wedding ring catching the light. What now? What's the next chapter? More of this. Helping families, raising our daughters, building something that matters. He squeezed her hand. Growing old together. Watching Sophie and Emma grow up. Being present for all of it. That sounds perfect. It sounds normal. For us, normal is perfect. Marcus thought about the journey that had led him here. The years of service. The combat deployments. Elena's death. The crushing poverty. The invisible years of scrubbing toilets and skipping meals. And then one moment. One choice. Running toward danger instead of away. That single act had changed everything. Had made him visible. Had connected him to Victoria and Emma. Had led to the foundation, the wedding, this life that felt like a gift he hadn't earned, but would spend the rest of his days trying to deserve. Daddy. Sophie's voice came from the doorway. She was supposed to be asleep, but she never could resist joining them when something important was happening. Hey, baby girl. Why are you up? Couldn't sleep. Too happy. Marcus opened his arms, and she came to him, tucking herself against his side like she'd done 1,000 times before. I have a question. What's that? The story about the brave knight, the one who did good deeds in secret, the one who never wanted anyone to know. What about it? Sophie looked up at him with eyes that were her mother's eyes, full of wisdom beyond their years. You're not invisible anymore, Daddy. Everyone knows who you are. Does that mean you're not the brave knight anymore? Marcus considered the question. It was the same question he'd been asking himself for a year. I think it means the story changed, he said finally. The knight spent a long time in the shadows because he thought that's where he belonged. He thought he had to be invisible to be good. But then something happened that brought him into the light. And he learned that you can be brave whether people see you or not. So he's still the brave knight. He's always been the brave knight. He just has a bigger audience now. Sophie nodded slowly, processing this. I like that version better. The knight shouldn't have to be alone. No, baby girl, he shouldn't. Victoria wrapped her arm around both of them, pulling them close. None of us should be alone. That's the whole point. We find each other. We hold on. We face whatever comes together. Family, Sophie said firmly. Family. Marcus agreed. Family, Victoria echoed. They stood there on the balcony, the three of them, four, if you counted Emma dreaming peacefully inside, watching the night deepen around them. Marcus thought about everything he'd lost. Elena, his military career, his sense of purpose. 6 years of his life spent invisible and struggling. But he also thought about everything he'd gained. Sophie healthy and thriving. Victoria impossible and wonderful. Emma, a bonus daughter he'd never expected. A foundation helping thousands of families. A life with meaning and love and hope. The math didn't balance. It never would. You couldn't weigh grief against joy and come up with a neat equation. Life didn't work that way. But maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was just to keep going. To take the terrible things and the beautiful things and let them exist together. To honor what was lost by embracing what remained. Maybe the point was simply this, to run toward the things that mattered even when it was dangerous. Even when it cost everything. Even when the world told you to stay invisible. Because that's what brave knights did. That's what heroes did. That's what fathers did. "I love you, Daddy," Sophie whispered. "I love you too, baby girl. More than anything in this world. Even more than chocolate chip pancakes with smiley faces. Even more than that." Wow, that's a lot. It is. It really is. The city sprawled beneath them, full of invisible people struggling to survive, waiting for someone to see them. Tomorrow, Marcus would get up and try to help as many of them as he could. He would run the foundation, protect Victoria's company, be a father to two amazing girls, and try to make the world a little bit better than he found it. But tonight, he was just a man standing on a balcony with his family, grateful beyond words for a second chance he'd never expected. The wind picked up slightly, carrying the sounds of the city cars and voices, and the distant pulse of life going on as it always did. Marcus Chen closed his eyes and let himself feel it all. The love, the loss, the hope, the healing. He had been invisible for so long, a ghost moving through a world that refused to see him. But not anymore. Now he was seen, now he was known, now he was home. And that in the end was the only thing that had ever really mattered. A father, a husband, a hero. Not because he had sought glory, but because he had chosen love over fear, sacrifice over self-preservation, and hope over despair. The brave knight's story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And whatever came next, he would face it the same way he had faced everything else, with his family beside him, his purpose clear, and his heart wide open to whatever miracles the universe still had in store. Because that's what you did when you finally stopped being invisible. You lived.